That's a $200,000 car, man. You want to tell me whose keys you're holding? Registration says out of state. You sure this is yours?
I already told you, that's mine.
You understand what that sounds like? A little unlikely.
Sound like a problem you got, not me.
Go ahead and turn around. Put your hands behind your back.
Seriously?
Let's go. Turn around.
No greeting, no license, no registration. Officer Jared Bolton walked straight up, pointed at the Ferrari, and said, "That's a $200,000 car. You expect me to believe you own something like that?" He didn't see a man. He saw a stereotype. But when the body cam kept rolling and the truth hit him in the face, that same arrogance became the evidence that ended his career forever. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you're watching from and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. It happened in North Haven, a quiet suburban stretch where people walked their dogs, jogged in the mornings, and pretended crime didn't exist. The afternoon sun sat low over the trees, throwing a warm glow across the neighborhood, and everything looked calm, right up until a bright red Ferrari rolled slowly down Brookline Drive. Engines like that weren't common around here. Heads turned, curtains lifted, but the only pair of eyes that mattered belonged to the patrol SUV parked half-hidden behind a cluster of mailboxes. Inside sat Officer Jared Bolton, a man known around the department for his proactive policing. His supervisors called it enthusiasm. The people he stopped called it harassment. Bolton was the kind of officer who didn't wait for crimes. He went hunting for suspects. And the moment he saw that supercar gliding past with a young black man in joggers behind the wheel, Bolton was convinced he had found one. The driver was Darius Kendall, 29 years old, a quiet, methodical cybersecurity analyst who spent years helping small companies recover from data breaches. His job didn't make headlines, but it paid well. He'd bought the Ferrari as a gift to himself after landing a major contract, something he had worked over a decade for. And today, all he wanted was to take the car out for its first long afternoon drive. He pulled into a small community park, stepped out of the Ferrari to stretch, and started scrolling through his phone. Nothing unusual, nothing suspicious, just a man enjoying a sunny day and a new car. Bolton didn't see it that way. The second Darius turned to get back in, Bolton's SUV swung in front of the Ferrari, blocking him in. Darius froze. The door hadn't even closed yet before Bolton jumped out, hand already hovering near his holster, face locked with suspicion that didn't hide for a second. "You in a hurry?" Bolton asked, voice cold. "No, officer, just taking a drive." Bolton didn't answer. His eyes were already scanning the interior of the Ferrari, then Darius's clothes, then the keys in his hand. Everything about him said he'd already decided what he thought the situation was. "Step away from the vehicle," Bolton ordered. Darius raised his hand slowly, stepping back. "Is something wrong?" Bolton moved closer, shaking his head like he was disappointed. "Yeah, something's wrong. That's a $200,000 car, and you're gonna tell me those keys are actually yours?" There were no questions about speeding, no mention of a traffic violation, no reason for the stop, just a blunt accusation based solely on what Bolton believed someone like Darius could or couldn't own. Darius tried to steady his voice. "Officer, this is my car." Bolton's jaw tightened. "You think I'm stupid? I know a stolen car when I see one." "You haven't even checked anything," Darius replied carefully. "You're assuming—" Bolton cut him off with a sharp step forward. "Don't get smart with me. I know exactly what's happening here. Guys like you come into neighborhoods like this, look for houses to scope out." "I'm not doing anything wrong," Darius said louder this time. "Yeah, I bet you did." At that moment, a jogger passed by, watching the scene with concern. Bolton noticed, turned his body to block the jogger's view, and leaned closer to Darius. "Give me the keys," he demanded. "For what?" Darius asked. "You haven't told me why you stopped me." Bolton's tone dropped to a low threat. "Give me the keys." And that's when Darius looked directly into the officer's chest, at the blinking green light on the body cam. He realized every second of Bolton's behavior was being recorded. Every assumption, every accusation, every unlawful order. "Officer," Darius said firmly, taking his wallet from his pocket, "here's my ID. And before you take another step, you need to understand something. You just crossed a legal line, and it's going to cost you far more than you think." Bolton didn't flinch. He didn't back down. He grabbed the ID like he expected it to prove him right. But what was written on that card and what Bolton said next would ignite the moment that took his badge forever. Bolton held the ID between his fingers like it was some kind of joke. He didn't even look at the name first. He looked at Darius, up and down again, still convinced reality would somehow bend to fit whatever story he'd already written in his head. Then his eyes dropped to the card, and the smirk on his face faded, slowly, stubbornly, like he was fighting against the facts printed right in front of him. "Darius Kendall," he muttered. His eyes dropped lower. "Department of Homeland Cyber Defense, Senior Security Consultant." For a moment, Bolton said nothing. His jaw clenched, then unclenched. He flipped the card over like he expected to find something wrong with it, some crack, some sign it was fake. But everything about it was official, laminated, sealed, authenticated. Bolton looked back at Darius. "Where'd you get this?" "That's my government ID," Darius said evenly. "You can radio it in if you'd like." Bolton scoffed, trying to regain control. "Yeah, right. You think I'm going to believe some hacker job like you ended up working for the feds?" Darius didn't blink. "Officer, if I worked for hackers, I'd be driving something more expensive." A jogger passing by chuckled under his breath. Bolton shot him a glare before stepping closer to Darius again, lowering his voice. "Listen, I'm not buying this. Nobody your age in sweatpants is out here driving a Ferrari legally. And nobody your age," Darius replied calmly, "should be this terrified of a black man with a nicer car than you." Bolton's nostrils flared. That hit him exactly where he lived, inside that fragile place where ego and authority mix. He took another step forward, chest puffed, trying to intimidate. "You want to talk attitude? Fine, hands behind your back." "For what?" Darius demanded. "State the charge." "You interfered with an officer during an investigation." "What investigation? You never announced one." Bolton hesitated, just 1 second, but it was enough to show he didn't have an answer. The body cam caught it. Then it caught Darius pulling out his phone. Bolton's eyes narrowed. "Don't you record me. It's legal," Darius shot back, "and after the stop you just made, I'd be stupid not to." Bolton reached out like he might try to grab the phone, but then his hand dropped. He remembered the green blink on his own chest. He remembered Internal Affairs could pull that footage. He remembered supervisors who were already tired of his incident reports. So instead, he stiffened, trying to regain control through procedure. "Stay where you are," Bolton said. "I'm calling this in." He turned towards his SUV, pressing the radio button on his shoulder. "Dispatch, this is Unit 419. I've got a suspicious subject, possible fraudulent federal ID, requesting backup." Darius sighed. "Fraudulent? Seriously?" Bolton ignored him. The radio crackled. 419, what's the probable cause for the stop?" Bolton swallowed. His eyes darted back toward the Ferrari. High-value vehicle. Possible match to a robbery suspect. No vehicles linked to the robbery were reported. Repeat, no vehicle descriptions match. Another voice cut in, stern, older, someone who knew Bolton well. "Bolton, what exactly are you doing?" Bolton's hand dropped from the radio like it burned him. He turned back towards Darius, face red with anger, not embarrassment, anger that someone dared question him. "You think just 'cause you got some fancy badge you can talk down to me?" Bolton hissed. "I haven't raised my voice. You're the only one escalating this." "Yeah, and I'll escalate it however I damn well need to." He stepped forward again, trying to force dominance into the space between them. "You don't belong in this neighborhood. Not in that car. Not looking like that. I know what's going on. Guys like you..." "Officer," Darius cut in. "Finish that sentence, please. On camera." Bolton froze. He realized what trap he had stepped into. A trap he built himself. a trap he walked into proudly. Because the second he said anything racial on camera, anything that proved bias, his career wasn't just in danger, it was over. Bolton backed up half a step, breathing harder now, trying to find control in a situation that was slipping through his fingers. Sirens echoed from down the street, backup arriving. Bolton straightened, wiping his face quickly, trying to appear composed. 2 patrol cars pulled up. Officers stepped out. One of them, Sergeant Lena Torres, noticed Darius's ID instantly. "Kendall, you're the guy from the federal security seminar last fall, right?" Bolton's entire face collapsed. Torres continued, "Why is your ID being run as fraudulent?" Darius pointed at Bolton. "Ask him." Torres turned to Bolton. "Jared, what is going on?" Bolton opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Not a single reasonable explanation. Darius folded his arms. "Officer Bolton pulled his weapon-free intimidation routine because he didn't think I belonged in my own neighborhood or in my own car." Torres glanced down at Bolton's body cam, still blinking. "Is that true?" she asked. Bolton swallowed hard. Torres stepped closer, voice low and cold. "You better choose your next words carefully, because that camera is telling the truth even if you don't." And before Bolton could form a sentence, the sergeant reached for his chest and pressed the playback button. The neighborhood went silent. The officers leaned closer. Bolton's career started collapsing in real time. Torres didn't raise her voice, but the entire street felt the shift. Authority wasn't something she performed, it was something that settled around her like gravity. She pressed the body cam playback button and the tiny speaker crackled to life, projecting Bolton's own words back at him. "That's a $200,000 car. You want to tell me whose keys you're holding?" A couple walking their dog slowed down. A man across the street stepped onto his porch. People recognized that tone, that quiet, practiced suspicion. They didn't need context. They'd heard it before. But Darius didn't move. He didn't smirk, didn't brag, didn't talk. He knew the moment he reacted, Bolton would try to twist it. So he stood still, arms crossed, watching Bolton unravel under his own voice. Torres stared at the body cam, jaw tightening. "Jared, why didn't you ask for license or registration?" Bolton felt every eye on him. I was getting to that." "Were you?" Torres asked, hitting the button again, replaying the next line. "You expect me to believe you own something like that?" One of the younger backup officers winced. It sounded 10 times worse on replay, 10 times colder, 10 times more deliberate. Bolton's voice didn't sound like someone doing his job. It sounded like someone flexing power because he could. Torres's eyes narrowed. "You detained a federal consultant over a car?" He was acting suspicious. "How?" His mouth opened and closed twice. He wouldn't answer my questions." Torres raised the ID Darius had handed over. "This ID was handed to you before you even identified a reason for the stop. I was reviewing it." "No, you questioned his right to exist next to a nice vehicle. That's not policing, that's profiling." Bolton could feel the ground slipping. He turned toward the other officers for backup, but none of them moved. None of them even made eye contact. Nobody wanted to fall with him. Darius finally spoke. "Sergeant, may I clarify something?" "Go ahead." "I didn't raise my voice once. I didn't refuse any request. I handed over my ID immediately. The only thing I questioned was the officer's assumption that I couldn't possibly own what I worked for." Torres nodded. "His body cam already confirms that." Bolton snapped. "Oh, come on. He's playing innocent because you people always—" Silence. Every officer froze. Darius's eyes narrowed. Torres's face went stone still. The entire street heard it. The one phrase Bolton couldn't afford to say on camera, on record, during an investigation he already mishandled. His words didn't just cross the line, they leapt over it and burned the bridge behind them. Torres stepped forward. "Jared, did you just say, 'you people'? That's not... I didn't mean..." But Torres wasn't listening anymore. She turned her head to the nearest officer. "Secure his weapon." Bolton jerked back. "What? You're taking my gun but letting him keep his phone? Your phone isn't evidence, but your weapon is. And that body cam you're wearing? It's about to become the most important piece of documentation Internal Affairs has seen all month." The young officer stepped forward, hesitating only for a second before unclipping Bolton's holster. Bolton looked genuinely stunned, like he never imagined consequences would ever reach him. "Sergeant, you're making a mistake. You're letting this guy manipulate. The only manipulation happening is you trying to twist a federal worker into a criminal because of what he looks like." Bolton shook his head. "This is insane. This whole block is against me because they hate cops?" "No," Darius said softly. "They hate being treated like suspects for existing." Bolton took one step toward Darius, and Torres inserted her arm between them. "That's enough," she said sharply. "You get any closer to him and you're in cuffs." Bolton froze. He wasn't in control anymore. He wasn't even in the illusion of control. Then Torres turned to Darius. "Mr. Kendall, I'm going to need you to file a formal statement. I'll provide the incident report number." Darius nodded. "I'll file it, but I want a copy of the body cam footage preserved." "It will be," she said, "immediately." Bolton snapped again. "You can't do this. I've got seniority." Torres didn't flinch. Seniority doesn't erase misconduct. People around them murmured, whispering, nodding, filming. Bolton suddenly realized he wasn't just losing an argument, he was losing the narrative, the authority, the image he'd built for years. He looked down at the body cam blinking on his chest, the same camera he'd relied on to shield him from accountability. Today, it was the device digging his grave. He reached up, as if to cover it with his hand. Torres grabbed his wrist mid-air. "Try it," she warned, "and I'll arrest you on the spot." Bolton's chest rose and fell rapidly, rage swallowing him whole. But he didn't touch the camera. He knew if he did, this wouldn't just end in suspension, it would end in handcuffs. Darius watched quietly, never gloating, never taunting. He didn't need to. The truth was handling everything on its own. Torres finally said, "Mr. Kendall, you can go. I'll email you the incident report and notify your department. This will be handled." Darius looked at Bolton one last time, calm, measured, steady. Actions have consequences, even with a badge. And with that, he turned, walked toward the Ferrari, opened the door, and sat inside. Bolton stood there shaking, realizing, maybe for the first time, that a badge couldn't protect him from the truth. Darius didn't speed away. He didn't rev the engine. He didn't so much as tap the gas pedal harder than necessary. He pulled off the curb as smoothly as someone backing out of a driveway. Calm, precise, unshaken. But Bolton? He watched that Ferrari disappear down the block like he was watching his entire career drive away with it. The remaining officers avoided his eyes. The neighborhood was silent except for a few murmurs. Torres stood beside him, hands behind her back, posture firm, expression unreadable. But Bolton could feel it, the moment the world tilted against him. The moment he went from the man in control to the man under investigation. Later that night, Internal Affairs received the footage, and the moment they pressed play, everything unraveled. The recording showed every detail. The accusation, the tone, the disbelief, the phrase, "you people," the attempt to intimidate, the moment Torres stepped between Bolton and a man who had done absolutely nothing wrong. There was no way to twist it, no way to justify it, no policy he could hide behind. The next morning, Bolton was placed on administrative leave. By the end of the week, he was suspended without pay. And 3 weeks later, after the review board had watched the footage in full, twice, the decision became official. Termination. Permanent decertification. No badge, no salary, no chance of ever working patrol again. His 14-year career ended not because of a single mistake, but because the body cam he turned on with confidence captured the prejudice he swore he didn't have. Meanwhile, Darius filed his formal statement, calm, factual, unimpeachable. He didn't embellish, didn't get emotional. He let the video tell the story for him. The city attorney reached out before Darius even had time to hire a lawyer. A settlement was drafted. A training directive was issued. The department was ordered to implement new stop and bias protocols. Every officer would be retrained. Supervisors reassigned. Patrol guidelines rewritten. And in the middle of all that change was one simple moment. A moment where a man was judged not by his actions, but by the value of his car and the color of his skin. Months later, Darius stood in his garage staring at the Ferrari under the overhead lights. He had thought about selling it, thought about switching to something less noticeable, less threatening to the people who couldn't accept what success looked like on him. But he didn't. Instead, he ran a hand across the hood and whispered, "They're not going to shrink my life for me." He got in, started the engine, and drove out into the evening. Not to prove anything, not to win anything, but simply to enjoy what he earned. And somewhere across town, Bolton sat alone in his apartment, replaying the same footage over and over, wondering how a moment he thought he controlled became the moment that ended everything. The answer was simple: assumption, bias, and a man who refused to back down when confronted with both. Success didn't put Bolton in danger. His own prejudice did. And this time, the camera didn't lie. If this kind of real-life breakdown interests you, hit that subscribe button. I'll keep covering cases, encounters, and moments just like this, the ones that tell the truth without sugarcoating anything.